There's just no substitute for the physical lab experience to ignite a student's love for science and discovery, whatever their field of study. Science Interactive. We don't just elevate what you learn, but how you learn.
Sasha Peterson, CEO of Science Interactive, is a man on a mission, breaking barriers in the world of science. Science Interactive makes it possible to enjoy engaging real-life experiments from the comfort of your home, from college, or even a submarine.
We are Science Interactive. As your lab partner, we bring hands-on experiments to wherever your students are. We make it easy for you to reach more students and provide them with authentic lab experiences. Created by PhD scientists for science instructors, our lab curriculum is designed with academic rigor to meet Quality Matters standards.
Science Interactive allows people who otherwise wouldn't have the chance to replicate real-world lab experiences online and prepare for on-campus labs ahead of time.
With over 450 interactive lab experiments across 11 science disciplines, our lessons provide engaging experiences that complement your course curriculum. By partnering with institutions and instructors, we enable students to access hands-on lab experiments whenever they want, from wherever they are. We provide personalized support to help you every step of the way. Our lessons are designed with student safety in mind. Every lab kit includes all necessary PPE to complete course curriculum safely. Instructors can easily customize lab lessons, track student progress, and provide feedback through our online platform that integrates with your LMS.
Science Interactive has been around for over 30 years now, and it's shipped over 1.4 million lab kits, which I think you'll agree is pretty mind-blowing. I'll let Sasha explain more about how you or anyone with a love for science can enjoy science from the comfort of their own home using their ready-to-use lab kits, and how Science Interactive is transforming the world of science.
A common misperception about Science Interactive is that you can't really do science online. Right. So what happened during COVID was the eyes were opened that really everything can be taught online. We work with over 600 campuses around the country.
Nice.
Are now offering programs like this online. We literally ship to your home a fetal pig that you can do a dissection in your kitchen. My mother, born in Riga, Latvia, spent time in a German displaced persons camp during World War II, grew up in Sao Paulo, and then comes to San Francisco to go to college. Like, what an amazing journey. I just think that if you find something that really resonates with you, which to me is just the promise of education, it's hard to not love it. We've really rallied around the idea of enabling scientific literacy, whether it be elementary school students using science first lab equipment or entering a Star Lab Dome, all the way through college students using our Science Interactive kits to really trying to facilitate literacy no matter where they are, and trying to make that as accessible, education as accessible as possible.
Yeah, so I saw the YouTube video on your homepage, and it looked like the kind of thing that my daughter would love. So you guys, from what I could tell, you guys will ship the packs to wherever people are, right?
That's right. Yep. No matter, and we have
science from home.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're all tied to university classes.
Okay.
So we work directly, or I guess I should say, we work indirectly through the university. So typically, we'd engage with a professor or department chair in one of the 15 different disciplines that we offer. Yeah. And similarly to a textbook, they put us onto their syllabus and say, in order to achieve this learning outcome, we expect you to do this experiment, and you can access that through the Science Interactive website, and they purchase the kit and we ship it to them. And one thing we discovered actually last year that was pretty cool was that we deal with US students almost exclusively. You can imagine that shipping chemicals, across the world can be complicated. However, what we didn't realize until we were speaking with National University down in San Diego, who has a very big military population of students, that some of our kits end up going global because they start out, in school at National, and then they get, deployed. And so we had one student write back to us that they were doing these experiments in a submarine somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic. So that was a pretty cool idea to imagine that our kits are making it, allowing them to advance their education, no matter where they are, literally under the sea in some cases.
Of the ocean.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. That's pretty cool. Well, that's a pretty good overview of the business. I wonder if you would be up for doing a little segment which we unimaginatively call the elevator pitch. 20 seconds to describe your company. We play a little sound where the elevator doors open. As soon as they open, you got 20 seconds to describe the company. You up for that?
Sure. I'm going to focus just on the kits and skip the other three, but yeah, no problem.
Cool, man. So you'll hear the doors open.
Science Interactive allows students anywhere to do hands-on science experiments among 15 different disciplines from the comfort of their own home, in their kitchen, in their living room, anywhere they are. And so rather than going to a lab on campus, we bring the lab to you to allow you to learn science by actually doing science.
That was 20 seconds. You nailed it. Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. This is the fifth one we've done, and 4 out of the 5 so far have been incredibly successful. So 80%, not bad. That's fairly good.
All right, not bad at all.
Would a scientist say an 80% success rate is pretty high?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
So. Yeah, we can do better, I'm sure. Right. So you're based, if everything I'm going to say is LinkedIn giving me this information. So if I'm wrong, feel free to correct me. But you're based out of Oakland, California, and the company is based out of Englewood, Colorado. How are those two things possible?
Well, and I'll give you one third one, which is our warehouse and shipping facility is in Yulee, Florida.
Oh,
so
right.
We're truly a coast-to-coast operation.
Yes.
I reside in the San Francisco Bay Area. Our main office is in Englewood, which is just a suburb of Denver. But as many businesses in COVID, we've had a lot of people leave Denver. And so what used to be, a pretty full office is now pretty empty. Yeah. And so I think we're probably a remote first business now, with the exception of the people that are in Florida. Because obviously to put the kits together, we need to receive them, we need to package them, we need to ship them. And so that operation never closed. In fact, it didn't just not close. It, as you can imagine, during COVID, when we support online education and when everything became online, it was unbelievable. I mean, I wasn't here for it, so I've only heard the tales, but it got pretty crazy during 20 and 21.
I can imagine, and I guess I don't know how important this is, and maybe I'm misremembering, but I think Florida was quite relaxed compared to other states as well.
Yeah, that is true. And like I said, I wasn't part of the business at the time, and I think that couldn't have hurt. But just to put in context, we do 300 to 400 what we call new adoptions each year, and that's true for like the last 5 or 6 years. That just means new courses using, some number of our kits. In 2020, that 300 to 400 went to 1,100.
Wow!
In just that 1 year because of that. So it was a pretty wild time.
Yeah, I love it. Really good. So, okay, how long have you been a part of the company?
About 18 months. I joined in October of 22.
As the CEO?
Correct. Yep.
And the company's been going for much longer?
Much longer. It's almost hard to wrap your mind around it, in that our company was started nearly 30 years ago. And so if you think about us supporting online education, there was no online education.
Yeah.
And so the origin story of Science Interactive, I believe the original company might have been called Hands-On Learning, was that there were students, and this was built in rural Colorado. A chemistry instructor who lived up in some mountain village, thought to himself, it would be great if I could help students, no matter where they are, learn chemistry. So originally, we were basically a correspondence course supplier. And so if you were taking chemistry, through the mail, this company allowed you to get the same kinds of physical assets that we offer today. And then obviously as the internet took off, the business took off, and now it's a very different one. But yeah, it's 30 plus years is the ultimate kind of trajectory of the company.
I love that. I love that. Obviously, I'm a hugely favorable person for the internet. Internet's changed my life and my family's life completely, and I just love how it can elevate these businesses. It's amazing,
Yeah,
absolutely amazing.
yeah.
So, I think we've covered the question about how it started. What? Okay, so COVID was a big part of you guys getting a greater reach, greater awareness. How have things been since then?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great observation. The business had been around and growing steadily for many years,
Hmm.
but it was a very targeted audience. In other
Yeah.
words, adjunct professors often,
Mm.
who is like the original gig economy, right? Adjunct professors teach at a bunch of different schools.
Yep.
They're a chemistry teacher at 3 different universities or colleges or community
Got it.
colleges. We were known in that market. We did well in that market, but it
Mm.
was that market.
Yep.
And I think similarly to what I joked to you about, that if you'd asked me 2 years ago, how do I take chemistry online? I would say, I don't think that you do.
Yeah.
I think that was the belief of most universities and colleges when you thought about it on a more macro level.
Yeah.
And so what COVID did was really open up the eyes of many administrations to say
Yeah.
it's more than just business. I think most people, when you think about online education, you think about getting an MBA, right? That's like the
Mhm.
generic catch-all
True.
online education. So
True.
what happened during COVID was the eyes were open that really everything can be taught online.
Yeah.
And as they thought about, okay, well, if you want to teach science and you need actual lab equipment, how do you do that? And there's a couple of companies like ours that are out there doing that.
Mm.
And that really, I think, expanded pretty significantly the reach of the business. Now, I can tell you that, after the crest of 20 and 21, we've entered kind of a more normalized phase where I
Yeah.
think, chemistry professors at UC Berkeley or Harvard that are teaching freshmen that are coming to those campuses are not ever going to say, "Hey, we want to be an online, teacher
Okay.
first."
Okay.
But but most institutions today, we work with over 600 campuses around the country,
Nice.
are now offering programs like this online. And so the new normal is that we've come down from the overall number of adoptions that we saw in 20
Mm.
and 21, but
Yeah.
are still significantly up from what it was in 18 and 19.
Makes
And
sense.
so we've sort of reached a new normal, and we think that people are really beginning to understand this as a big opportunity. And as I said earlier, people know, if you look at the Department of Labor, over the next 10 years, the majority of new job creation is going to be STEM courses. There's also this thing in education that people are talking about a lot now called the demographic cliff. And this
Hmm.
happens every kind of 15, 20 years, is that just the
Yeah.
demographics of the country are such that the number of graduating seniors in high school is going to go down for the next couple of
Mm.
years. So there's a
Okay.
lot of university enrollment professionals, kind of freaking out, thinking,
Hmm.
what am I going to do to keep growing my campus enrollment? And so we believe that now they have their eyes open to the fact that online is a very viable opportunity, not just for kind of the traditional social sciences, but
Yeah.
also for the harder sciences that we help them deliver.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's really interesting. Okay, that's cool. So what's the most important thing about Science Interactive for you to you?
My entire career has been in higher education. Kind of by accident. I got involved, um, and we were all the companies I've worked at prior to this one were involved in the enrollment side, which is why what I
Okay.
just mentioned about the enrollment kind of
Yeah.
coming to be something is something that's near and dear to my heart, and I understand. I
Yeah.
also know, both of my parents are immigrants. I'm a first generation American, so they both came for university, and
Okay.
so I am a first front row seat
Hmm.
to the power of higher education and the ability to transform lives. My mother grew up poor in Brazil, and now has her own physical therapy practice for the last 30 plus years in the Bay Area.
Nice.
And so education's always been a really important thing to me.
Yep.
So when this opportunity presented itself, I was really intrigued by kind of seeing the other side of campus. I'm so used to the input of the students coming here and then kind of not
Hmm.
really thinking about them after they got to campus. Being part of a company that helps the instructional side was really interesting to me.
Yeah.
And that being in the sciences was even more exciting to me. So it's been a really very eye-opening journey so far. And, it hasn't been that long, but it's been really eye-opening and really exciting to see the impact that businesses like ours can have on students that are really trying to, advance their lives.
Nice. Really nice. How do you measure success for Science Interactive?
Yeah, we're a business, right? We support education, and so I think we're a very noble business. But at the end of the day, our key success metrics are based on the growth of the business. However, unlike many businesses where the kind of end consumer we have slightly less visibility on, the outcomes that our student partners also go through is an increasingly big factor of what we look like. So in addition to just the materials we send out, we have an online platform that is basically it's a lab manual that you access digitally. So it teaches you a little, it tells you what you're going to do with this equipment, what experiments you're going to run through, kind of tests out what you're doing. And so that's something that's been a relatively passive part of our business for the last couple of years. And we're really digging into that now to think about how can we help facilitate making sure the outcomes that the students are achieving are as high as possible. In other words, the graduation rates, the success rates, the completion rates are really high. So one of the things that we've started just dabbling in, which I think most companies are now, is where AI can fit into this. And so we have preliminarily included a AI bot that just helps you understand what it is that you got. If you're asking, what am I supposed to do with this equipment? We have a knowledge base that's accesses. So we're beginning, our chief academic officer and I are spending a lot of time now thinking about what can AI offer from a learning tool. And ultimately, we're not the instructor, right? We are just a tool that instructors that are working at accredited universities and colleges are using. So we're not, looking to replace them, but we're really looking to augment them as much as possible to allow them to do kind of the hands-on, one-on-one teaching that I know they all want to be doing, which is hard to do when you're doing it online. Online is very asynchronous. An assignment is posted, you do the assignment, you kind of post it back, and it's this back and forth thing. So we're trying to figure out how can we make that as frictionless as possible to maximize the ability for the professor to really engage with that student one-on-one.
Interesting. This is a slightly different question, slightly different, or maybe very different. How do you measure success for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very different question. Ultimately, I'm the steward of the business, and so I need to make sure that our investors are happy, that our customers are happy. But I have been very lucky to have grown up at a company that really put culture first. And so I really, when I think about, whether I've had a good day or a good week or a good month even, I put the team first. And how we've engaged with each other, especially as we talked about a few minutes ago, being such a remote first organization. And interestingly, we actually have kind of two different profiles of employee, right? We have the employees that are always in the office, in our warehouse, in our office in Florida. And then nearly everybody else is remote primarily. And so trying to find a way to bridge that gap between those of us who are remote primarily with those people who are going into the warehouse every single day, shipping things out, is the unity of that group, the alignment of all those people, all of us understanding what our priorities are, how we're measuring success, whether it be from business outcomes or student outcomes. My ability to make sure that we're all thinking the same way and kind of looking for the same goals is how I think I measure my success most. And so we do actually, at the end of each year, we do an employee survey that I consider my personal report card, just to keep the kind of academic analogy going. And we ask everything from, do you believe in what the company's doing, to do you like the workspace that you're in, to are you okay with your salary, and everything in between.
Interesting.
And really, and I tell people this, and I don't know how many people actually believe it, but I say I literally read every word from every single employee. And some of them are, multiple choice, but most of them are kind of free space writing.
Yeah.
And that to me is the end of the year. As I enter the holidays, I always look forward to reviewing that and both, seeing where we did well, but almost more importantly, where we fell down and where we can work harder and where we can spend more time to make sure that we make this, not only a successful enterprise from a financial standpoint, but a place that people can be really proud to call their job.
That's really cool. That's really cool. Yeah, I don't know why, but it brought to mind Amazon in terms of all the different types of variants.
Yeah. Yeah, I've thought about that a lot. I mean, unfortunately, I don't know anyone very senior or really anyone at all at Amazon, but I think it's exactly right. Is that there are, that's obviously a much different and much more diverse enterprise than us, but they very much have, the sales team and the marketing team that are kind of doing their thing. Yeah. And then these workers that are out there, all hours of the night, picking things and shipping it out. Yeah. And so, I've thought about that a lot. We actually recruit some people from Amazon in Florida. The warehouse next to ours is an Amazon one.
That's smart. I like that thinking. Very good. Very good. I think though, if I would pick a difference, and I'm sure Jeff Bezos won't mind me saying it, you guys seem to be very focused on the team, which I think is really important. Whereas I think the Amazon model, correct me if you think I'm wrong, is more about the customer, the end customer, which isn't to say that I don't think you guys are thinking of the end customer. It's just a different way of getting there.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I've read a bunch about Amazon even before I worked here, and they are very customer centric, which I think is good. But I agree that they're also not very well known for treating their employees particularly well. Yeah, right. And so my philosophy, I guess, is that if the team feels good about what they're doing, they are more likely to deliver outstanding products and experiences to our customers. And that's kind of how I think about it.
Yeah, no, I'm on your team. What's a common misconception people have about you or Science Interactive?
I think a common misperception about Science Interactive is that you can't really do science online. There's a lot of people that we talk to. Actually, here's it's a funny anecdote to me. You tell me if it resonates with you. So, as I said earlier, I've worked with enrollment professionals for my entire career, and many of them have now become my friends. And so I was talking to one of the VPs of enrollment about a big school in the East Coast, a public institution, about this new job I was considering. So I hadn't taken the job yet. Yeah. And I said, well, I'm thinking about doing this. It teaches online education, helps teach online education. And he said, oh, that's interesting. He's like, that's a little weird. That's way off of what you've ever done before, but, sounds interesting. And maybe if you take that job, you can help me convince my colleagues that teaching online science is actually something that we can do. Okay. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what my thesis is I feel like this could be an enrollment driver for institutions. So I take the job. Month or so later, another friend of mine who runs a small publishing company sends me a text of a picture of our kits in a bookstore and says, hey, is this you guys? And I was like, oh, that's cool. That is us. Where are you? He was on the very same campus that the VP of enrollment was telling me he needs help convincing his team that they can do this. And so somebody on that campus is teaching online science education, but the person responsible for enrollment growth is not aware of that. And so there's just this big disconnect in the world where I think some people get it and know they can do it and they live in their little world, but kind of thinking about how you can strategically leverage STEM education online is something that I think is still in its infancy.
That makes sense. What's the biggest misconception people have about the education business?
That it's not a business. I think most people, when you talk to a new person you've met and you talk to them about their career, you have the traditional lawyers and doctors and teachers. And you've got, some entrepreneurs and in the Bay Area, everyone works in tech. And so they're all used to software, but nobody thinks about education as an industry. Okay. They think about education as one of the steps along the way to get to industry.
Yeah.
And so that, I think, is sort of the biggest misconception and kind of shocker that people have, is that you can work a whole career not as an instructor, not as an administrator on a college campus, but that there's a whole industry of businesses that support education.
Yeah.
And so I think most people, like, just think about it as sort of as like a gate you go through on your journey to your career, and not something that is a career. And to me, I always say that most jobs, I think you got to feel good about doing what you do. Otherwise, it's not going to be, you're not going to want to wake up in the morning. But I think the work that I've done my whole career helping, and again, I've never been an instructor, but I've always viewed it as like truly noble work to think about. We provide a piece of software at my old companies to help find the right fit for the institution that you will ultimately be successful at. Here at Science Interactive, to be thinking about allowing you to take chemistry and biology and anatomy and physiology. We literally ship to your home a fetal pig that you can do a dissection in your kitchen, right? Like, that's just mind-blowing to me, to think about some student in some rural farm town that they don't have access to the kinds of educational opportunities that you have if you're in a more densely populated area, that we open all those doors for people. So that's I think is just a really, really exciting thing for me to think about.
Very good. I love it. You grew up in Oakland?
Grew up in Berkeley. So I've been sort of I grew up, I joke, almost on a college campus. My father worked at UC Berkeley for most of his career. Both my mom went to UC Berkeley. My sister went to UC Berkeley. So we're I went to UC Berkeley. So we're a very Berkeley centric family. And so, so I love, I feel like I could live anywhere in the country if it's a college town. College towns are just a great, fun place to be.
So how did that shape who you are today, growing up in Berkeley?
I mean, I think wherever you grew up shapes you, but one of the things that I think a lot about, and kind of my upbringing, is that as a result of my father working on campus, a lot of his friends and our family friends were all Berkeley professors. I've had dinner with Nobel laureates at my parents' house because that's just who their friends were. And so kind of the level of discourse and kind of the thoughtfulness that people have, and I'm not saying this isn't true in any community, but I think a university community at times can be a bit more esoteric than others, but also just, I think, had Berkeley in particular, I think, as a university, is so driven by social change, sometimes to a fault, that's the environment that I grew up in. And I think that's what drives, the excitement I have about opening doors for people to change their lives. I think is largely, well, maybe I shouldn't say largely, could have been fueled from the exposure I had, my entire life to the types of people that come to Berkeley, the incredible diversity of people. Like I said to you at the beginning, my mother, born in Riga, Latvia, spent time in a German displaced persons camp during World War II, grew up in Sao Paulo, and then comes to San Francisco to go to college. Like, what an amazing journey to think about that. And so being and she's not alone, right? You go to a university campus, and there's so many people like that. I was at Fort Hays State, a couple of years ago, and there was this huge Nigerian population. Like, in what world do you grow up in a Nigerian village and you end up in Fort Hays, Kansas? It's an amazing thing that is a unifying force, I think, that colleges do for people. And I think that's what has just been part of my life and something I really appreciate and value.
100%. Yeah. What was the most significant turning point in your life?
I think college. I mean, I think that it's a little cliche to say that college is a turning point for you, but I mean, I grew up in Berkeley. I will, it was not my parents were not wealthy, but it was not a hard life that I had, and so that I feel very lucky and privileged to have had the upbringing that I did. But I think going to a school like Berkeley, being exposed to as many different disciplines and many different people, really kind of made me appreciate everything that I'd seen growing up. in a different and more meaningful light. And I think that's what, as I said earlier, I entered my career almost by accident, but
Yep.
I'm really glad this is where I ended up. And so being part of university communities my whole career has been just wonderful. I kind of feel like I've never left college. I learn every day. I get, exposed to new things every day. And that kind of curiosity that I think you get growing up really was an exclamation point was put on that during my college years, and I think has propelled me to continue to think that way.
I like it. What's something surprising you've learned about the people who study and learn with you?
Curiosity is universal.
Mm-hmm.
It is the number of different backgrounds that I have been exposed to, no matter what part of my career I've been in, and no matter what company I've been in, to see the incredible diversity of experiences ranging from people that have never been to college,
Mm-hmm.
who don't have anybody in their family that's gone to college,
Yeah.
all the way through, PhD candidates and PhD students. And that if you find the right thing for your life,
Mm-hmm.
that you will push yourself to be curious, you'll push yourself to do better, you'll want to learn, you want to evolve, is a universal trait. And not everybody has it. I mean, there's plenty of people that, I don't want to get into politics, but you hear about the very different viewpoints people have about what you ought to expect from people. But
Mm.
I maintain that no matter what your background is, if you find the right place, that curiosity is something that will drive you and is really does not have any bounds.
I love it. So this is a little segment we call Love Hate. I'll just do a little introductory little jingle for it, so you kind of get set up for the premise.
I I love you.
I hate you so much!
So you get the idea. You've got a choice now. Which direction will you go? What makes you angry, or what do you love about the education world?
I love the promise of education. I love the opportunity that education creates for you. I love the curiosity that gets cultivated in you in education. So every place in the world has problems you can find. So it's easy to find things to hate also. But the good is so much greater than the bad, no matter where you are, whether you're going to a small rural community college or to, Harvard or anywhere in between. I think that there is so much amazing opportunity that gets created on a college campus that it's hard to not fall in love with it every day.
Nice. What's the best or worst advice you got about starting a business?
I think the best and worst advice is you got to love what you do. And a lot of people think, well, if you do, I've heard so often that if you follow your passion, it won't be a passion anymore because now it's your job.
Yeah.
And I would say then that was never your passion.
Okay.
I can't say that, science education is necessarily my passion. I joke to people like, oh, well, this job makes sense to me because I was a science major in college. I was a political science major in college. So this is a very foreign world. The last time I dissected something was in high school. And so I just think that if you find something that really resonates with you, which to me is just the promise of education, it's hard to not love it. And everyone has, like I said earlier, like everyone can have a hard day, you can have a hard week.
Yeah.
But if at the end of the day, what you do, you believe in and you care about, it's a pretty great place to be. So whether you're starting a new company or joining a company, I think that's what you have to go for. And so that's yeah. So I think you gotta love where you are. And if you don't, find something new. There's enough opportunity in the world to not make you suffer through work every day.
Do you think you can learn to love something if you see it making a difference?
I think so. I think so. I think that, I mean, like I said, science education, I wouldn't have listed even 2 years ago as something really high on my radar. And now, last week I was down in Florida at our facility there and was looking for two people I work with that are kind of on the business side of the house. And I couldn't find them. And so I walked through the warehouse thinking maybe they're in there, and I see that the shipping gates are open in the back. So I go out there and they're back there literally dissecting a pig on the driveway.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like, in what world did I ever think that I would be like during the course of my day stumbling upon people checking on this new pig supplier to make sure that the insides of this pig are what we're expecting them to be. And so that is, like I said, that's not something I would have ever thought ever would have been like, oh, this is part of my job. And I think that was just like such a cool moment for me.
I understand. That's funny. What's the most difficult or rewarding part about running a business?
Someone is always let down. There's you can't make everybody happy, whether it's your investors or your board or your employees. At any given moment, that you're letting somebody down. And not on purpose, of course, right? There's not something that are like, oh, I'm totally ignoring this kind of thing. But I just like, I'm, good, bad, or indifferent. I'm a people pleaser. I want people to feel good about what I'm doing. I want them to feel good about what they're doing. Yeah. And so knowing that sometimes there's an inherent trade-off, meaning that if there's a board meeting coming up, I'm going to spend more time on the books, on presentations, on kind of the theoretical business side than I am talking to people, talking to customers, talking to the team. And that is the right thing to do at that moment. Yeah. But that's happening. And then similarly, if I'm, deep in the warehouse, helping run, a line and packing up boxes, is that the most strategic use of my time? Is my board going to be excited that I'm packing up beakers at the moment? Probably not. But to me, that feels like the right thing to do at that time. So I think that's the hardest thing is finding. And so I guess ultimately what that is the hardest part maybe is not letting people down. It is finding the right balance, because you're going to always have to make choices. Yeah. And so finding the right balance of being strategic and being hands-on and being fun and being serious and all those things that's not easy to do.
No, I agree. I think it was Gary Vee who made this analogy where he said, yeah, I'm spinning tons of plates, which by definition means I'm going to drop a few. You have to be okay.
Absolutely.
You have to be okay.
Absolutely.
That's the cost of business.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and one of the things that I think Facebook came up with is move fast, break things. I don't know that you want to be deliberately breaking things ever, particularly in my business where we send out a lot of glassware. So I definitely don't want to be thinking about breaking things. But I think at the end of the day, you also, not only does that analogy work that you're going to drop some plates, but equally, not everything's going to work. But if you don't try, try new things, if you don't give it a shot, you'll never innovate, you'll never advance, you'll never grow. And so that's, but no one ever, you always want to be successful. But I think how you survive and how you manage the failure and making sure you learn from that failure is, I think, the most important thing.
I would agree. We're coming to the end. We've got a couple more things. What's your favorite quote?
My favorite quote? I don't think I have one.
Or motto?
Probably motto is just do better tomorrow. I think I don't know who said that. I'm sure lots of people have said that, but the idea of continued innovation, incrementally getting better every day. I think that is what is, that's what our business is predicated on. That's what I try to live my life by as a friend, as a parent, as a partner. I would just want to do better tomorrow. It doesn't mean I'm trying to do bad today. I just want to do even better tomorrow.
No, point taken. I like it. It works, and it's nice and simple as well. I like that. What question? This is the last one. What question should I have asked you?
I think you covered it well. I mean, I don't know. We covered a lot of ground, and I think I mean, I think my job makes it hard to miss stuff because part of most people's origins is their academic journey that kind of naturally fits into this. So yeah, I don't think I've got anything that I would say you're missing something big by not asking.
That's cool, man. How can people find you and Science Interactive online?
So Science Interactive, scienceinteractive.com. You can learn all about what we're doing. We've got some great videos, as you said earlier on there, that give you kind of a real hands-on feel for what we're doing. And I'm on LinkedIn at Sasha K. Peterson. And my contact info is in there as well, and would happily talk about any of this with anyone if they reach out. But
Lovely.
appreciate the opportunity very much.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Mike. Thanks so much.
You too. Thanks a lot. Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. If you have an e-learning business, you're a leader of an e-learning business that you're looking to get to the next level, increase sales, that kind of thing, feel free to reach out. I'll put a link to my LinkedIn beneath this video, and you can get me there. Have a great day.